Welcome to the executive interview series brought to you by DocuSign. I'm Brittany Lehman. Rockstar companies do business on the DocuSign Agreement Cloud. For more information, go to DocuSign.com. Our guest today is Kevin O'Leary, chairman of O'Shares ETFs and star of ABC's Shark Tank. So Kevin, you're a serial entrepreneur and you also help entrepreneurs on Shark Tank. But I kind of want to go back before all the money and all the success because you started from very humble beginnings. So tell me about your humble beginnings and how that kind of led you to Shark Tank and where you are today.
Sure. I've learned when I talk to other entrepreneurs that have had similar journeys that there's some, catastrophic moment in their life that takes them on this new path. And for me, it was very early on when I got my first job while in high school. I got a job scooping ice cream in a mall. And the reason I did it is the girl I was interested in was working in the shoe store in the afternoons across. And I thought if I could just get into that mall,
Right.
And so the first day I showed up there, and of course I'll never forget this, I was scooping ice cream, and when people take samplers and taste ice cream, they get a little stick of it, they take their gum out and they throw it on the floor. At the end of the day, my first day ever, the woman that owned the store came to me and said, look, before you leave, you've got to scrape all the gum off the Mexican tile. It was a Mexican tile floor. And immediately I looked across and I saw, this girl in the front looking at me because it was now time to leave. It was about 4:30. And I didn't want to see her, have her watch me on my knees scraping gum.
Right.
Because I was really concerned. I said to the owner, look, I'm a scooper, not a scraper. You hired me to scoop ice cream. Hire somebody else to clean the floors. And she said, no. Here's how this works. You're my employee, and you're going to do exactly what I say. Now, this was my first experience in how this whole thing works. And I said, well, I can't do that. I mean, I really want to be the best scooper there can ever be. And so I want to focus on scooping.
Yeah.
And she said, how about this? How about this? You're fired.
Right.
And I said, what does that mean? She said, don't come back. I'm just going to pay you cash for the few hours you were here, but I don't want to see you here again.
Yeah.
And it was so humiliating. And at that moment, it was like a bolt of lightning that hit me. I realized there's two types of people in the world. There's people that own the store, and there's people that scrape the shit off the floor.
Right.
And you have to kind of decide which one you want to be. And that was my moment. I've never had a job ever. Every entrepreneur has that moment where they decide to take that journey. It's never a destination, it's always a journey. And it kind of defines who you are for the rest of your life. It's not the easiest road, but that's what happened to me.
And walk us through your process on how do you decide what companies to invest in?
It comes down to what's the team like? Remarkably, in the last decade, and I've said this many times and I've learned from it, 95% of my successes on Shark Tank have come from the companies run by women. And so, I don't want to start gender warfare. I'd give money to a goat if I could get a return. I don't really care.
Yeah.
But the point is they're doing certain things that I've learned mitigate risk. They set very achievable targets. They're extremely focused on time management skills. They're very protective of their brands. They work very well with social media. There's a whole bunch of things. So I, generally speaking, have been investing the majority of my capital in new startups with women, just because the returns have been much better.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's the only thing I do, but that's my number one. Who's on the team? How many women are in the company? They mitigate risk. The returns are higher. That's what I want to know.
What advice do you have for securing capital and for fundraising?
Well, people say, oh, there's tons of money around. No, there isn't. That money is reserved for companies that have proven a business model, even if it's nascent and it's small at 2 or 3 million in revenue. But they've gotten from 0 to 2 or 3 million in revenue, and now they're going to see a VC saying, look, if I pour $5 million on this, I can grow sales to 25 million. Here's how I'm going to do it. Here's what platforms I advertise on. Here's how many customers we get. Here's how long we retain them. Here's the customer acquisition cost. When you're able to give that model to an investor like me, I'm interested.
Yeah.
But if you're telling me I have a startup idea and I need $1 million, you have to go get that yourself.
And the DocuSign Agreement Cloud is a great example of how business has evolved with technology. Do you encourage your companies and the companies you invest in to digitally engage?
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you why in the case of DocuSign. DocuSign recognized something very early on in financial services, which is a big area that I invest in. I have many investments in ETF indexing companies or mutual fund businesses or even online trading platforms. That's a space I have millions invested in. When I first got involved with DocuSign, and I was talking to some of the executives, I eventually went on their advisory board. The number one concern I had were the regulatory environment rules that were changing all around the world. For example, if you have your documents, let's say you've invested in a German bank, or you want to invest in a British bank, and you have your documents sitting in the United States, they can easily be subject to the SEC regulations because the nexus of the content of the contract is sitting domestic. And I said to DocuSign, I bet there's a huge business if you can create nexuses of documents. Like the actual server is not here.
Right.
It's not in America. It's in Canada, it's in New Zealand, it's in Australia, it's in England, it's in Germany. And then market to those companies that they have an option. They can come on the standard platform at a lower fee, or now a platform that's unique to their domicile, their geography. And those guys were smart enough to do that, and that was one of the big liftoffs for DocuSign, because now if I invest in a foreign company, I could say, look, use DocuSign to keep our documents in your geography under your compliance.
Right.
It was brilliant, and it really was a game changer.
And if you could go back in time and give young Kevin one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
You know, I have been asked that question a lot, and it's a good one. And I've thought about it a lot. And my answer is I wouldn't change anything. Entrepreneurship is not a destination, it's a journey. It never ends. I'm never going to retire. I'm going to keep doing this till I drop dead.
Yeah.
But I don't know which of those experiences, all the good ones and all the bad ones, give me that sixth sense that I have now. And I'll tell you the story that I often use as an analogy. I went on to do an MBA. In my second year, guest lecturers came into the class, and there was a guy my age that came in way back. I'll never forget this experience. We were just about to graduate, and he said he didn't do the traditional, here's some slides I'm going to talk about, you know, the airline industry or whatever. He came in and said, I'm going to tell all of you, men and women, something. You may not want to hear this, but you all think you're so damn good and you're so smart and you're going to go out and change the world. You're going to get your ass kicked so hard because you have no experience. You think you know, but you don't know. The real world's going to chew you up like dog food, and it's going to be so brutal, and some of you will survive and some of you won't. And I thought to myself, listening to him, what an asshole. And today I realize he was 100% right. And now I go into MIT, I go into Harvard and do the same thing, and those young people say, what an asshole.
Right.
But I'm right. And so what I've learned is you have to have the experience. You have to go through all the horrific failures and bankruptcies and euphoric successes to get the sixth sense that makes you a great investor. And I'm proud of that now because I can viscerally feel what's going to work and what isn't. And there's no way I would have known that as a young buckaroo.
Right.
And I know when I'm in that, I taught a class last week of graduating Court of Engineers, 600 of them. And I gave them that pitch, and I told them a story, and I know they thought I was an asshole.
Yeah.
They'll learn the hard way.
Yep. And last hard-hitting question, do you still wake up passionate every day, and are you still having fun?
Yeah, you know, and I tell people this because it's a great question. The reason you pursue the entrepreneurial journey is not for the greed of money, because you don't know that outcome. You just don't know. You do it for the pursuit of personal freedom, because if you are successful in one of these companies, you only need one. And you get to a place where you wake up one day and you say, shit, I'm rich. How'd that happen? You didn't see it coming.
Right.
And that happened to me, you know, when the sale of the learning company, 9 of us, we started in a garage, and then we sold the company for $4.2 billion.
It's like,
And,
wow.
and the next morning I got up and said, well, I'm only going to do the things that mean something to me now. I don't have to do things I don't want to do because I no longer work for that woman in the ice cream store.
Right.
I work for me, and I do what matters to me, and that is, I wish everybody gets to that place. And the only way you can do that is you've got to be an entrepreneur. It doesn't mean being an employee is a horrible thing.
Right.
It means you get to go to the soccer games and the picnics on the weekends. You can go visit your spouse's family and all that. I never got to do any of that. I was working like an animal for 15 years.
Right.
And now my new vision of freedom is I say to my family, look, I'm gone all week. I'm all over the world. But pick any city on earth, anywhere you want to go this weekend, and I'll pay for all boyfriends and girlfriends to go there. I'll book the resort or whatever you want. Let's hang out from Friday night to Monday morning, and we'll do it again.
Yeah.
And that is my version of freedom, and I do that every weekend. I'm always together with my family on weekends in some crazy place that they chose. I don't care where it is.
Yeah.
And that's it. The point is, you do the journey for the freedom. That's it. And that, to me, is the definition of freedom.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.